they're just purely trying to test this thing out to gather as much data as they could and see if this thing is going to work out well. I think they're pretty much committed to doing this. I actually didn't even know this until a friend of mine sent it to me. Say, hey, join this lottery. It's free and you can potentially win some money to use it. I've read some articles about it. I mean, it's going on as planned.
All right. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome my friend Wen to the show. I believe that Wen has some incredible things to say about what's going on in the world, especially in China. So Wen, for our audience who doesn't know your story, can you catch us up to what's been happening in your world? Give us a little bit more of information about who you are.
Absolutely, Jonathan. Pleasure to be on this channel.
Whoa. Time out. I got to come clean. I don't want to come across as a disingenuous person. My name is Jonathan. I thought it'd be cute to have an alias online for my safety. I thought it'd be cute to have Joel, a 4-letter word, with race, a 4-letter word. Fit that into a cool array, put it on a t-shirt, create a brand off of it. Who knows? Maybe I'll make millions. But I want this relationship to be as healthy as possible. And for that, I believe there needs to be some honesty. So the truth is out. My name is Jonathan. You can call me Jonathan. You can call me Joel. You'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'm not going to rebrand the whole channel. I spent too much time on that animation, too much time on those logos. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think the best way to move forward is for both of us to acknowledge that you were wronged. I was wrong for wronging you. And please subscribe, like the video, and on to the interview.
My name is Wen, W-E-N. That's obviously not my full name, but my full name is too complicated, so we'll just skip that part. So I have been living in China. Well, in fact, I mean, I was born and raised in China, and I moved to America for college. I graduated. I moved to Texas. That's where I met Jonathan for a job. We're actually coworkers. I moved back to China in 2017 and have been back and forth between the U.S. and China. And it's interesting to see how both countries how both societies change, evolve, and I think that's what we're here to talk about. Really, we're talking about as I'm sure you know already, a digital currency here in China, but at the same time, I think it really reflects what's going on in the society in general, but also in America. Cryptocurrency. And all things blockchain. I went to school for economics. I graduated with a degree, but I went into aviation just like Jonathan did because I love airplanes. But I guess really, I mean, it really is. What's the word for it? Well, I kind of lost my train of thought, Jonathan. There, I'll hand it back to you.
And one of the things that really intrigues me about your story is you are boots on the ground, as to say, you are in China in the middle of everything that is happening. And I personally like to keep up with what's going on in China because I believe it's a leader in many things. And there's some really interesting things happening in China monetarily that a lot of Americans per se wouldn't be aware of. And I think it's important for us to keep a lot of those things in mind. So would you please tell us what is going on in China right now?
Sure. Obviously, everybody knows the coronavirus was raging across this country, and just recently it was brought under control. The coronavirus actually opened up another question here is it's contactless payments, right? People attributed part of the effectiveness of controlling this virus here to contactless payments because when you go to a store, when you go to even just the street vendor. You don't have to pay cash. You don't. There's no physical, medium for the virus to be carried to different people other than airborne transmissions. So digital payments have become a thing actually well before COVID. It really started in, I think, 2013 and 14 when the company Alibaba, I'm sure some of you know, and I'm sure some of you already own their stocks. Alibaba started off as an online platform for vendors and buyers, just like Amazon. The difference is being Alibaba is more focused on it's like business to retail, except that the difference is in China, people back at the time didn't really trust the seller. The seller and the buyer didn't really have a good trust relationship. Sometimes what have happened was, you would pay for something and then the product never arrives, or you would pay for something and something happens and while in transit, or it got lost, and there's no recourse to it. So what Alibaba did was they used Alipay as an escrow service. So it holds the funds. It doesn't release the funds until you receive the product and you think the product is, and you've confirmed that the product is delivery condition. So that happened well before 2014, right? So at some point, Alibaba has decided that, hey, there are already enough people using our services, using Alipay. So why don't we take it as a payment processing software? And that's what happened in around 2013 and 14. That's when it really took off. And another player in this world is WeChat, and I'm sure some of you have heard about WeChat because of the recent um, uh, politics involved with WeChat, and President Trump was trying to ban the app from being well, I mean, it can still be used in the U.S., but at a certain point, I think it was at risk of being taken down from the App Store. But anyways, WeChat and Alipay, what happens is they're essentially like Apple Pay or PayPal, except that with just a QR code. A bar. It's not a barcode. It's a QR code. Is like a square, black and white sort of a code that when you scan it, you can make payments or you can receive payments. It's very easy to use. QR codes are so pervasive that a street vendor, who have absolutely no credit cards, not even probably not even a typical bank cards or debit card, would be able to receive your payments in this form. So, and the implication of that is a huge number of Chinese citizens were being underbanked, meaning that they had no access to traditional banking. But with this, it really opened up a whole new world for them in terms of business efficiency, because they can pay and being paid, and the fee is minimal. And there's the processing fee is very small. But that's what's going on with the traditional payment world. Just like what I think I read about Elon Musk when he was at PayPal, he really wanted to make PayPal what I think, in my opinion, I think Elon Musk really wanted to make PayPal what WeChat is doing now, except that obviously Musk was forced out of PayPal. Well, he made a lot of money, but not a bad day for him. But anyways, I think he originally wanted to make PayPal what it is going on with WeChat and Alipay now. So Alipay and WeChat have evolved with time. They're not just an app where you pay or being paid right now. They're a full financial services platform where you can basically buy money market funds with it's hugely liquid. A lot of people would put their a small sum of money, and daily changes, or or a portion of, some people put up a huge portion of their net worth into Alipay to buy those liquid money market funds that are relatively safe, and they earn about 2 to 4% interest on those investments, and they can use the money, they can have access to the money whenever they want. They buy insurance on that app. They pay their utility bills. They pay their phone bills on that app. They make appointments on that app. So it has become, I don't think it's an understatement to say that Alipay has become a central, a very central element in everybody's life in China. However, being a huge country, we're still looking at probably a market penetration of, I don't know the specific statistics, but there are still a lot of people, mostly people of older age, that do not use Alipay because they might just not use a smartphone. You have to have a smartphone to use the service for obvious reasons. But still, going across cities in China, just any city practically, even small towns and villages, you'll see Alipay and WeChat Pay being used. And all this, what we're talking about here, is really the pace of change has been quick. When I went to when I went to the U.S. in 2012, none of this really existed. I mean, it did exist, but it was not being used in a widespread fashion. So when I returned in 2014 for a visit, I noticed that it was everywhere. It was very quick. This thing caught up like a wildfire. So we and all this, I think was essential to this new digital currency that the Central Bank of China, the Bank of China, recently pushed out, because it already more or less, the population has grown used to using a digital form of currency. They feel comfortable with it. I feel comfortable with it. Vendors feel comfortable with it. And I think without WeChat Pay and Alipay, this would have never become a reality. How you can talk about blockchain, or talk about cryptocurrency, however you want, but people wouldn't trust it. I think Alipay and WeChat Pay really was the training wheels for this new digital currency, which was just rolled out, and I think it will be successful. But there's no way of knowing for sure.
That's right.
And we can talk about it later. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was even gonna touch on the fact that there seems to be maybe a move from using cash, right,
Mm-hmm.
into we saw it first. We stopped using gold coins, right, and silver coins. We moved towards a cash society, and then from a cash society, I guess we were pushed into using plastic, right, with credit cards and debit cards. And now, since technology has been, it's evolved so much, now we are able to push all of this convenience into our smartphones, right? To where we can simply be, I've done it several times. I'm scrolling through Instagram, and I see a product that I like, and with the click of a button, I can buy it, and it'll charge my Apple Pay or whatever, and it'll be sent to my home. And so I think, generationally, I grew up using cash as a kid. But now our kids are gonna grow up in a society where they don't know what cash is. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna know this transaction and this way of doing business and transacting goods and services. All they're gonna know is it happens on the phone, right? And so it seems like you said, in China things have happened so quickly, but in the U.S. it's been a generational. The pace has been not as extreme. It's been kind of slowly happening, but we understand that cash is a little bit of an inconvenience, right? Like we don't like to carry cash with us everywhere we go. It's easier to
Right.
just pull up our phones. So I think you're right. I think that this is using currency and the way that we transact is going to look way different than what what our children, or than what we were used to growing up, right? And our children are gonna be exposed to something completely different.
Right.
And I think it's gonna work because we've been. I hate to say the word condition because it sounds like it's it's like someone's planning it. Of course not, but it seems like that's just the way the natural progression of things. And so I think yeah, if you want to talk a little bit more about what China is doing with this new digital RMB as they call it,
Hmm.
and what how are they introducing that to the public?
Sure, sure. So I think just going off on what you said, Jonathan, I think you made a great point in saying in describing the evolution of currency. You know, from jewelry. I mean, from the old days, probably like stones, jewelry, to standardized coins. Now to paper money. I think the features that newer and better currencies, almost all of them have to take to the features that newer currencies have to have are security, ease of use, and probably cost efficiency, right? So carrying a huge bag of gold coins is not very efficient, and it's dangerous. I mean, because you can get robbed and money is going to go away.
Yeah.
um, uh, or I mean, and it gradually evolved into banknotes. Paper money. It's easy to carry.
It's portable. Yeah.
It's affordable. I mean, that doesn't cost much money to create to print the money. So I think now in a new age, I think it's almost inevitable that we have to transition into a digital payment system, which America was probably the front runner in credit cards. The reason, I mean, it's not that China didn't want a credit card system. It was because the credit card system was costly. You have to have, a payment processing company, obviously huge, operation which connects, the funds and the vendor, and you have to not only process the payment, make sure it's not fraudulent. You also have to maintain the system. You have to, the vendor also had to have a machine that, a physical machine that processes your payments. Whereas for digital currency, it's often as easy as just a little QR code, a piece of paper that you scan. Going back to the digital RMB here in China, it's now an experiment conducted by the central bank, the equivalent of the U.S. Federal Reserve here. It's the Central Bank of China. What they did was they uses so digital RMB is a form of currency that utilizes the technology in blockchain, basically a central ledger recording all transactions, making it more safe, making it more efficient, less fraudulent. The difference between a traditional cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin that uses the blockchain technology and this Chinese digital currency is that digital currencies are oftentimes are like Bitcoin, oftentimes are decentralized, right? Everybody essentially has a ledger. You record every transaction that ever takes place. The difference with the digital RMB in China is that although it uses this idea or the technology of a blockchain, it's not decentralized the way we think, the way Bitcoin is. The central bank of China still has all the power. Well, they have all the power in terms of regulating the currency. They can put more into it. They can take some out of it. I don't even think to say they can put more in it or take out of it is correct. The correct way to say it is that this is simply one of the ways that they print money. They can print money on paper. They can print money by putting digits into their system that's sent to the banks, or they can print money by issuing these digital currencies. The way they do it is obviously this is new. Nobody really has tried it until recently. So what the government did was they created an app that you can download, and they invited citizens of big cities like where I live in, Shenzhen of China. It's a southeastern city in China. It's a big city of 11 million people. They invited citizens to enter into a lottery for a chance of winning, the equivalent of about $30, free money. But the catch is that you have to go use it just so that they can test out this idea. They just about 2 weeks ago, they sent text messages to citizens, or push notifications to WeChat users and say, hey, come over here and enter a lottery. This is totally free. It's organized by the government, and you have about a 2 to 3% chance of winning. I think $30 or $50. I think they were giving out something like about $15 million to just people to test this out, and they have and because it's legal tender, right? So no vendor can refuse to accept it if they have the ability to accept it. Not everybody has the ability to accept it yet, but they plan to roll it out, so that this would not become legal tender until every vendor you go to can actually process the payment. But how this works is it's on your phone. You have an app. Once you have the money, it just it shows it's almost like your PayPal account. It shows how much money you have in there. The interesting thing about this is that even if you don't have internet, let's say you have the money on your phone, but you lost your internet connection, it can still work.
Really?
It can
I
still
didn't
work.
know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So because of the blockchain technology, when you make that transaction, your system records that, right? Like your system records the transaction, their system records the transaction. Whenever you get connected to the internet, that information will be shared across all devices, all systems, right? So, and I think they're confident that it's secure enough that the chances of fraud would not be will be very low. And because you can use it offline, it really works like paper money. So I'm not sure if you can see it. I can send this picture to you.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
this is what it looks like. It essentially looks like PayPal. It has scan to pay. There's a button that says scan to pay. There's a transfer of money, receive money, stuff like that. So looks like it can be. I'm not 100% sure about this, but it looks like it can be paid via Bluetooth. So you don't. So people that basically have. I think anybody who has the app in a functioning mobile phone will be able to pay and receive the money, and and you can see on this little screen, there's a picture of the currency itself, and it has a code. I mean, it has a probably a unique code attached to it. So when you go to a vendor, you just show them this thing, and then the payment happens when you basically use Bluetooth
To transact, yeah.
to transact. Yes. So I'm just taking a look at this right now. It is legal tender. It just in digital format.
And when
And
was this rolled out? When?
2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
And
So
how were they advertising it? Was it like a slow, you would see the advertisement on, I don't know, billboards, or was it, how did you first find out about it?
the quick answer is they're not advertising it per se. They're just inviting people to participate in the lottery, so you can get some free money to go test it out. Sort of like the universal income idea in Europe, where they just find some lucky people to try it out. The difference is that I don't see much advertising going on here. It's not political, so it's not like the politicians will try to use this to get elected or something like that. It's they're just purely trying to test this thing out to gather as much data as they could and see if this thing is going to work out well. I think they're pretty much committed to doing this. They're just trying to find out the bugs and the kinks in the process and transaction process, and fix any potential loopholes. So that's why they're inviting people to participate. The advertising really is just a text message from, or it's an article or a text message. Or I actually didn't even know this until a friend of mine sent it to me. Say, hey, join this lottery. It's free and you can potentially win some money to use it. I've read some articles about it. I mean, it's going on as planned. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I guess that's a good thing to clarify. It's not like it's on the news. You don't see it being plastered all over. It's just they're sending text messages through WeChat, which everybody already uses. So that's basically the best way to get through to people, right, through an app that they already use, and I guess encouraging them and luring them, if you will, with free currency, right? So let me ask you this: Are you, if it does go forward and it is accepted by the general public, how do you feel about using it? Is it just a little bit more convenient than what you're used to? Do you? Because I understand this. When I understand that the culture in America is a little bit different than the culture in China. In America, people love their freedom, and they will, and it's sadly a very political point where a lot of people will not wear the mask because they feel like it's infringing on their freedoms. In China, where the air quality, I guess, in Hong Kong is not always the best, so wearing a mask is sometimes, people are used to it. I perceive there to be a few freedoms that you are giving away once you sign up to use this currency. For example, one of the things that I can kind of see happening is, maybe one of many things. They deposit this money into your account, right? And it's free money. Use it at your discretion, but it will expire, let's say, in 30 days, right? So forcing people to spend money within a time frame to get velocity, high, to make sure that people are exchanging, and they're not hoarding a cash, or they're not hoarding a currency, and therefore kind of tossing the economy into a vortex, of doom, which is usually how depressions occur. People just kind of hoard money. They don't feel confident, and it's just, they're not spending money, so people aren't getting paid, and it just becomes a huge deal. So how do you feel about those things?
Here's what I think of the digital currency. I don't think they're going to use it as a mechanism to stimulate the economy. The way that they've been so, just like in the U.S., everybody got $1,200 during COVID relief. People here in China, some people got vouchers that do have expiration dates, actually, to go out and buy things. I know that I think it's a voucher for just about anything, in a district that's a little far away from me. So that a voucher has a jurisdiction. I never used it, not because I didn't want to, but because the amount was so low that it would have cost me more to go there. But they do give out vouchers, all kinds of vouchers, all kinds of discounts on goods and services, and it's all paid for by the government, which is the taxpayers, really. But that's right after COVID. They were trying to stimulate the economy. They were giving out all kinds of incentives for people to go out and buy things, and it could be done very efficiently with vouchers with expiration dates. Now, this digital currency does not have to function like it, because, and it really couldn't function like it, because think about this for a moment. When the government paid this $1,200 per person federal relief to citizens in the U.S., they couldn't do it fast enough, because originally they were talking about doing it as a tax credit, and then they decided that you had to do it direct deposit because the money wouldn't arrive in time, right? Even direct deposits are hard because a lot of people don't have direct deposit, right? People who are underbanked, minorities, people who are less educated, lower income families, they have a problem getting this because they might just not even have a bank account. Whereas with digital currency, what happens is you can really just give this money to whoever you want within an instant. And this money essentially is paper money, except that it's not printed on a piece of paper. It's in a digital format, right? So it is in your digital wallet. It's in the format. People, government can give the money to you very, very efficiently if they want to. So I do see an upside in terms of for example, in a depression or in a time of crisis where, let's say, a city was hit by a bad earthquake and the people have lost all their income. How do you accurately make sure that everybody gets the money? If you get the money, if the government gives the aid to some agency, this agency might be corrupt to the core and just don't even pay out cents on the dollar, right? So they can give out this money very efficiently. It can pinpoint every person, because this digital currency is tight. I mean, if you want to have an account, your ID, they know everything about you. I think they even have to take your face scan. So they can very accurately make sure that you get the money, right? I think that's an upside. In terms of abuse, would they abuse it for any reasons that are untoward or sinister? I think it wouldn't even, if you think about it, this thing is essentially cash, except that it's not printed on a piece of paper. It's printed in your phone, right? So it saves the same function. If they wanted to do some stimulus, they don't really print money. When we say they print money, they actually don't. They just punch in digits into their system, into a computer system, essentially injecting cash into your banking network, right? Whereas with the digital currency, you can inject cash directly to your citizens. I think that's a huge upside. Another upside of this is, and we talked about freedom earlier. This relates to freedom. I mean, some people will see it as a downside because every transaction is recorded. If there's a investigation, there's something fishy going on, or something criminal going on, they can trace the transaction to basically wherever it came from. Every step of the process can be traced. So if there's money laundering activities, it can be easily traced to which parties were part of the transaction. Whereas if it's cash, and this is not really new just to China. This is really not unique to China. The U.S. also has a very strong money laundering mechanism. For example, if you go to a bank and you deposit over, I think, $10,000, you automatically trigger a report. The bank will send in a report to the IRS to make sure that there's no tax evasion, there's no money laundering, and you can't even if you try to space it out, you almost always trigger a report. Like, let's say I'll deposit 3,000 right now, 3,000 tomorrow, 3,000 the next day, and they actually will file a report because they suspect you of either tax evasion or money laundering. So with the digital currency, this problem basically, it would not be as big of it's too early to tell how effective it is in terms of combating money laundering. But what we know for sure is that unlike cash, paper money, this digital cash is totally traceable. That's where it differs from cryptocurrency. A lot of cryptocurrencies we see, like Bitcoin, is because is the fact that
it's decentralized.
It's decentralized. I mean, Bitcoin, Joe can pay Jing, and really nobody knows it, right? Like, technically you can still find out, but like the government has no control. Nobody has any control over it. Just like the guy, I think I remember seeing the news of a cryptocurrency CEO who died, and because nobody had access to his computer, like millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency was just locked in there. Nobody can have access to it.
Wow.
You mean it depending on how you see your own government, it could be a huge plus or it could be a huge minus, right? I think most people here in China would want a currency that is backed by the government, because if you think about it, money, what is currency? What is money? What is value? Really, it's in a currency that's backed by the government. The value is the tax authority of the government. It's a claim on the wealth of the entire society, right? Like, you can, the cash is essentially the central government's debt, right? The central government issues the cash to you. It's essentially their liability, but they have the taxing authority. The government has the taxing authority over the entire population. This money is essentially guaranteed by the entire population, unless the government falls. Obviously, it's the same with the Federal Reserve. The U.S. dollars. It's a Federal Reserve, debt essentially. So whereas if it's a cryptocurrency, how much is it really worth? That really depends on, Bitcoin is worth a lot because there's huge demand for it, right? Has huge street value right now. But what if there's another coin that came out that's got even more following? How is it going to impact Bitcoin's value or worth? That's a huge question. I have no answer to it. So I think that and instability is something that you don't want to see in a currency, because nobody will want to do business. Let's say if I were Ford Motor Company and I do business in China, I report my earnings in U.S. dollars, right? I want my stocks to be stable. I want my currency to be stable. So I want to make sure that the currency I'm dealing with has a stable exchange rate to the U.S. dollars. Now the exchange rate between cryptocurrency and U.S. dollars is really measured in U.S. dollars, right? It's not very stable. So as a corporation, I would not want to take that form of currency until it's truly, stabilized over, let's say, 20 years. It really barely changed much, or changed within 10, 20%. That's acceptable. So I think for a digital currency to be rolled out on a massive scale, used by everybody, it has to solve that problem. And if you go out and buy groceries, you don't want your money to be fluctuating on a daily basis, right? And that's why digital currency, it doesn't fluctuate. It's just currency. It just uses blockchain technology. Going back to what we talked about, blockchain technology in the banking system. The banks are already using blockchain. J.P. Morgan is using blockchain for consumer banking. They haven't rolled it out yet, but they are going to use it for consumer banking. Zelle, the interbank payment system, uses pretty much I don't think it's technically blockchain, but it pretty much is it, to transfer money. That's why, if you use Bank of America, I use JP Morgan Chase, I can transfer money to you through Zelle without having to pay a fee, because it doesn't go through the traditional mechanism where banks exchange, money. So I think blockchain is here to stay. It's going to be here for a long time, maybe forever. But I don't know about. But I think blockchain and cryptocurrencies are fundamentally different things.
Appreciate that, Wen. Thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge.
Well, I sometimes I talk too much. You gotta stop me sometimes.
No, I love it. I think it's all great information, and I would assume that we'll get to do this again for sure, and talk a little bit more about other things that I know interest both of us. I think with all of that said, it might seem like a lot of people aren't really paying attention to what's really happening in the world, and this is just a way for us to make sure that this sort of news are propagated and people know about what's really going on in the world. Because I believe that this new digital RMB, which is what you call it, is probably going to be the future monetary system, and I think it's very exciting, and I just wanted my viewers to hear it from someone that is on the ground there in Shenzhen, China. So, Wen, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to have you soon sometime again.
For sure, man. Really appreciate the opportunity, and I just going back to what we were saying earlier. Sometimes you got to interrupt me if I talk too much, and I know you have a lot of questions prepared. So, yeah, just maybe going, in the future, we'll both. I'll be better at managing my talk, my answers. Right now, I'm just droning on endlessly.
No, I love it. I think it's phenomenal. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to watch all the way to the end. If you found this content valuable, would you hit that subscribe button? And would you also do one more thing? Would you hit that like button so that the YouTube algorithm pushes this video out to as many people as possible. And you know what? I wouldn't hate it if you decided to post this on your Facebook wall, or maybe you decide to text it to a friend that you think might find this valuable. And you know what? If you hated the video, if you really thought that this was the worst video that you've ever seen, you can give me a thumbs down, write it down in the comments below. I can already see it. Hey, Jonathan, why are you trying to be like George Gammon? You obviously trying to be like George Gammon. I can already see the trolls filling up the comment boxes below. George Gammon is one of my favorites. He is killing the YouTube game. I wish I had as much time as he does to post and push this content out. But would you do one more thing? Would you hit that bell so that it lets you know the next time that I upload my next video? Hopefully it doesn't take me 6 months like it did this one. I do have a full-time job and I do this on the side for fun. So if you'd like to support the channel, do all three: subscribe, like, and hit that bell notification. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Be kind to one another and protect your wealth with information.